Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Qorent-Xperts podcast. My name is Tolulope Oga, and I'm super delighted to have you guys listen in on today's episode of the podcast. As you already know, Qorent-Xperts is run by Qorent, who are members of staff of Qore. And every single episode, we come here to discuss relevant topics as touching technology and finance and the ecosystem at large. And every single episode is always loaded with premium value, and this episode will not be any different. With me today in the studio, I have the amazing David Areetey. He's the country manager Ghana for Qore, and we're going to be discussing the topic navigating cultural and technological shifts in Ghana's financial sector. As you know, or probably you do not know, Qore has a global outlook, and we are in different countries of the world helping to digitize and automate banking, not just in Africa but across the world. And today we are going all the way to Ghana to consider some key trends and topics that need to actually be looked into as touching the technological space and the financial sector. Before I bring David up, everyone, you know the drill. Let me read David's bio so you get a sense of the man behind the title. David Areetey is a strategic business leader with extensive experience in B2B selling, product and market expansion, client growth and retention, business advisory, and customer experience. He has championed and executed industry-first initiatives with expertise spanning business growth and advisory, product marketing, technology marketing, product development and research, Fintech, software as a service, and also banking as a service. David began his career in banking, collaborating with financial institutions and fintechs for nearly a decade. His deep understanding of digital financial services and market expansion led him to transition into fintech, where he has spent the past 14 months driving product and market expansion efforts for Qore in Ghana. With a strong passion for digital finances, digital financial services, fintech, and B2B partnership, David is committed to shaping the future of financial technology, and looking ahead, he intends to leverage his expertise to provide strategic consulting for digital businesses. Whoa, that's a mouthful. When we tell you guys at Qore that we are the top 1% of the 1%, you should believe us. Everyone, with a rousing applause, please welcome with me the amazing David Areetey. Hi, David.
Hi, Tolu. How are you doing? That was
I'm
a very,
good.
very generous introduction. That was a very generous one. I'm
No,
beginning to
I
doubt
speak
if
nothing
this
but
is
the
if
truth.
this is me.
I speak nothing but the truth. It's good to have
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely. Yeah,
It's
thank
good
you
to
for
have you
having
on
me.
the podcast, David.
Yeah,
How are you feeling
absolutely.
this
Thank.
morning?
Well, I'm feeling good. It's still early days in the year, so we're still putting together the footprints for which we want to, execute a lot of the nice things that you said about myself and Qore and what we are doing in Ghana at the moment. So yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So David, I'm just gonna
Yes.
jump right into. I know I'm particularly excited about this podcast episode. But David, let me just ask you this question. Can you tell me something in Ghanaian language? I'm trying to think of okay, can you so exactly. Can you introduce yourself in a Ghana language? I'm trying to remember one of the languages in Ghana now.
Okay, so we have which is the most widely spoken is Akan. Some places
okay.
Akan, AKAN, and then my tribe is the Ga Adangbe tribe. So we are, mostly we actually have our roots. So history will tell you that my tribe emanated from Ile-Ife in Nigeria. So a lot of the Yoruba, there are some terms in Yoruba that are similar to, the language that I speak. But I speak, quite a number of them. I speak close to about 3 or 4 Ghanaian languages.
Wow.
So yeah, so I try to balance it, and of course it's helped me well. You go to the market and you speak a certain language with the market woman, and then you are getting discounts that the next person is not getting. So it's it has the pros, it has the cons, but I will choose the pros any day. So to introduce myself in my language, which is the Ghana language, so I'll start off by saying Achomi David Areetey. Inchwani ya Qore, ya Ghana officer. One word chunwaji work banks chunwani wahame technology kuni amenibi na me feel amehame customers kuni eyemu. I think that will be all for now. Thank you. So essentially, what I said was
anything you said, but it just has a really nice flow to it.
Yeah. It has the same song future. So what I said, my name is David. I work with Qore, and we help banks and other financial institutions, improve their digital infrastructure and the customer experience for their customers. So in brief, that's what I said. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Amazing. Cool. So let's get right into it. Let's get right into the podcast. So today we're considering navigating cultural and technological shifts in Ghana's financial sector. So I'm going to ask you my very first question is what challenges do financial institutions in Ghana currently face when adopting new technologies, particularly in the financial sector, and how can they overcome these hurdles?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tolu, again for having me. So financial institutions, across the world, but of course we'll bring it home to the Ghanaian context, is where the challenges that these institutions face are enormous and are varied. So you're talking of the regulatory challenges, which is the most paramount or the most pronounced, let me put it that way. You're talking of infrastructural challenges, you're talking of security. And security, I'm not meaning the gate man at in front of the bank or the security man. This is security in the context of technology. So you're talking of cyber security, data privacy, and the lot. And now, of course, cultural nuances also play a key role in the challenges that banks face. So you take a typical bank with maybe roots from Nigeria or elsewhere coming into Ghana. You need to understand the Ghanaian context, that Ghanaians are a laid back people. We like to interact. So you want to probably start an agency banking model of some sort. You need to understand that in as much as digital businesses and onboarding is the way to go, you need to have a hybrid, a good mix of the physical and then the digital as well. In some instances it's called the phygital, so physical and digital. So you need to marry the two. And of course, technology is expensive. Let's not act like the ostrich and pretend as if financial constraints don't affect financial institutions. So the regulatory challenges, like I said, for the Ghanaian context, every financial institution has to be licensed by the Bank of Ghana. And for you to be able to do that, you need to present the information as you'll be required to. The bank will do their audits and all of those things. And some of the time, even in rolling out new technology. So this is, if let's say an established institution in Ghana and you want to roll out an agency banking model or a digital lending product or a card issuance technology, you still have to notify the central bank. And sometimes the delays in getting responses could affect the rollout time or the time to market. So regulatory and compliance challenges are very critical in these instances. Also, the very poor digital infrastructure. So a bank is not going to operate within a silo. You need internet, you need reliable power supply, the technological infrastructure. All of these things can hinder the growth or proliferation of financial technology in the space. And of course, security, like I mentioned, which is not the security man at the door or at the gate who is more or less handling who is coming and who is going out. This is cyber security. And 2 days ago, January 28th was the International Day of Data Privacy. So, every fintech, every bank is jumping on the bandwagon. This is how you protect your data. You don't give out your passcode or your PIN people other than the institution that you're working with. So some of these risks, in terms of phishing attacks, data breaches, fraud, also affect how banks can scale digitally. And like I mentioned, high implementation costs. Technology is expensive. You want to do all the nice things. You want to set up a fully digital business, but do you have the financial wherewithal to implement some of these things? So these are some of the challenges that affect a lot of banks. I think this is not even relating to the Ghanaian context only. This is across the board. So worldwide, Africa-wide, some of the things. And even one last thing has to do with the skill gaps. You want to you're a bank, you want to scale onto the cloud. You want to do all the nice things that AWS is doing, Azure, your contemporaries are doing this. Our technology is hosted on the cloud. You want to use all those nice words, but you forget that you need the in-house skill as well. In as much as you are working with fintechs like Qore and the others, you still need in-house skills to be able to manage this sort of technologies and information. And so some of the skill gaps are also in there, and banks are required to train their people to be able to have some of these skills in helping the bank to advance their technologies.
Amazing. Wow, thank you so much, David. That's really, really spot on. I know you mentioned regulatory challenges. There's the part of cost of financing. There's also the part of skill gaps as well. And I totally hear you on that. So we've established the challenges. So I want you to talk, like, based on my next question, like, what role does Qore play in driving technological innovation within Ghana's financial ecosystem?
Okay, so just to introduce Qore once again to everybody else listening in, Qore Technologies is a fintech where we say we are the core of digitizing financial operations in Africa. So we are a business built by Africa for Africa, or you call it made in Africa. Made in China has been something that we've all been accustomed to for years, from apparel to clothes to everything else. Now this is a made in Africa business for Africans. And in coming into the Ghanaian financial ecosystem, we are looking at providing comprehensive, exhaustive, cloud native solutions across the board. Now we have looked at financial service delivery, and we are touching on every component of it. So you're looking at back office operations, handling the bank's technology, the bank's operations, and this is through your core banking. Now you're looking at streamlining your lending processes. You're looking at our lending automation product called Recover. You're looking at enhancing customer experience and also widening your reach without the physical brick and mortar products or the brick and mortar platform. So you're looking at agency banking, and now you also want to have your customers have that experience, whether in branch or off-site, getting their cards here, they're getting their virtual cards to do their payments offshore, onshore, and all of those things. So we're looking at card issuance technology. So we've looked at the different components of banking, and we are providing technologies to surround all of those things. So just to highlight the things we do at Qore, we build core banking solutions, and ours is, like I mentioned, this cloud native. It helps to automate daily operations of the banks, manage customer accounts, and then of course deliver seamless banking services across the board. And we are also very much in support of rapid deployment of these services. Typically, some of these made in Europe for Africa technologies will take months, weeks to be able to move to market. And during those times, I'm sure even last year, we had a lot of issues around some of the big banks in Nigeria changing their core banking, and service was disrupted for weeks. And for you guys in marketing, you have something called the net promoter score. It will drop because the feedback from your customers, potential and existing, is not one that you would want to hear. So the banks will try and play around the issue of managing the reputation and how to handle communication with these customers. Now, lending automation, of course, instant lending is a thing now. Let's not act as though lending is going to be how it is. There are fintechs who are coming on board, offering loans in 24 hours, some in minutes, some in even, I'm sure even if technology could support lending in seconds, we would have technologies around that. So we are providing this technology for, institutions in Ghana or banks in Ghana who want to, be swift in their loan processing and appraisal, and moving it from, the subjective analysis of, okay, I don't like to lose face, so I'm not giving her a loan. So I'm looking at, issues around, her bio data, her transaction history. I'm picking, information from her phone and email, and then trying to create, a highlight or a snapshot of whether Tolu is able to pay that loan or not. Agency banking, setting up brick and mortar buildings is not easy. You have to staff it, all these overhead costs on power, internet. Now you want to go to, give that power to third-party, merchants or third-party agents who then, be selling your product on your behalf, albeit maintaining the same quality. And of course, all of this we call, banking as a platform. So financial institutions can leverage our cloud-native, platforms for rapid deployment. You can look at, extensive, infrastructure, very low cost, and then of course accelerating your time to market. So we look at all of this, offerings in providing this service to financial institutions in Ghana across the board, commercial banks, rural banks, savings and loans, microfinance, and the like. Thank you.
Amazing. So basically we're like your one-stop shop platform for anything banking technology.
Absolutely. Look nowhere else. Yes.
Amazing. So I'm going to ask my next question. So definitely we've all agreed that digital banking is the way forward. But my question is, how do financial institutions in Ghana balance traditional banking practices with the demands of a digital savvy population?
So you can look at it, in a number of ways. Like I mentioned, financial institutions in Ghana, are navigating the shift from conventional banking, where you have to walk in, interact with somebody. I want to open an account. Everybody is trying to do some form of digitalization of those processes. So where in the past I walk into a branch, now the bank says I have a mobile app, you can open an account. I have a USSD platform. In an instant, you have a bank account. Now the key to this balance, between conventional or traditional to digital is, ensuring a number of things. And a number of things, I'll highlight are accessibility. Now, you want to be able to make that service accessible. If before you don't want me to walk into your branch, to have high traffic, low turnaround times. Now you're saying, okay, I can do it on the mobile app. How accessible is that mobile app? Where can I download it? Is it compatible with my, in Ghana we call it the YAM phone or the feature phone, the non-smartphones. You also want to ensure that, there is trust that whatever I'm doing on that mobile app, is going to reflect on my account. If I make a deposit on the mobile app, am I sure that if I enter the banking hall in the next second and they check my balance, that those funds will be sitting in there? And then of course, convenience, which every financial institution is preaching, that we need to have that that good balance between convenience, onboarding or digitally, and then convenience when I don't walk into your branch. So and of course in Ghana we are a population of over 33 million, close to our 50-55% are probably under the age of 35. So we are a primarily young population, and where you have all these Gen Zs, trying to do a lot of these things online. Nobody wants to walk into a physical outlet. Those are the sort of things we are looking at, and some of the strategies that these FIs or banks are using is to expand these digital services on mobile apps, USSD, digital wallets, to cater for that tech savvy population in Ghana. The other thing also is, agency banking to reach the unbanked. Now, everybody is like a buzzword now, financial inclusion. We are preaching affordability and access. How do banks aim to do that? Now, banks, like I said earlier, agency banking is what they leverage third-party merchants or agents to more or less distribute their products. Now, whilst you are scaling that bit, you also want to have that good mix between, digital, platform and having that physical interaction. So agency banking, these customers are still going to interact with people who are not your customers. So there is also that balance of where, okay, do we train these agents on a regular basis so that, you know, an agent doesn't wake up one morning, he's in a bad mood and interacts badly with a customer of yours. It's going to tell on you in terms of the training that you offer these customers. And, you know, a lot of banks, agency banking in Ghana started in 2013 by a bank called Fidelity Bank, where I used to be before I joined. And, you know, they started off with agency banking, what they call the smart account. You can open an account in minutes. You can visit the corner shop, the pharmacy in your area, and then still interact with our product or our staff in that manner. So that is also another. And of course, mobile money is huge in Ghana. And of course, the biggest player, MTN, has close to about 90% of the market in terms of MTN mobile money. There's also Vodafone Cash, now Telecel Cash, Airtel Tigo Money, and all of that. So these, you know, bank accounts, mobile wallets. Now people are receiving salaries on their mobile wallets. Previously, you say, for salaries and stuff, it has to be in a bank account. You give us the bank details, we do a transfer. Now I can hold my salary on the mobile account. You know, I walk to, you know, maybe 2-3 meters from my house. There's a merchant I can withdraw, rather than going, you know, all the way to the banking hall or having to look around to go and find, you know, an ATM to make those withdrawals. So banks are beginning to, you know, have apps that are embedded with mobile money accounts, and that is how they are trying to do. Of course, customer service and delivery is also very important. Now that mix between, you know, I call a number where, okay, good morning, madam, please hold on for 20 minutes, and, you know, I'll be on the phone for hours, and, you know, and she's probably having a chat in the background. Now there's there are chatbots all around. Now WhatsApp banking, I can send a message, and, you know, the chatbots can, or conversational, you know, messaging service can give me my bank balance. You know, can say, okay, maybe this is you know, new product that the bank is rolling out. So technology, you know, is growing, and we are looking at it across different segments. And, you know, these are just a few of the things that banks are trying to do to balance conventional and digital, especially for a very tech savvy population in Ghana. Yes.
Awesome. Wow, thank you so much for that, David. And it's just like you rightly said, it's more of like the traditional banks need to catch up. To catch up,
Absolutely.
And they need to be that
Absolutely.
sync and integration, so that the brick and mortar financial institutions in that sense don't get left behind. I totally hear you on that. Okay, so from what you've said, it's super important that collaboration takes place one way or the other, maybe from the tech infrastructure providers to regulators to the banks and financial institutions themselves. What steps are actively being taken in Ghana to be able to sort of fast track and foster collaborations between tech companies, banks, and regulators in Ghana's financial space?
Yes. So a number of things are happening. You know, they've been happening since, you know, some may take some time, some are happening rapidly. So, like I mentioned, Ghana's population is a very young one, and the financial ecosystem, we have over 390 financial institutions. So this is, the entire addressable markets, commercial banks, savings and loans, microfinance, fintechs even, and all are managed or regulated by one institution, which is the Bank of Ghana. Now, in times past, a bank would say Tofi Aqua to partnering a fintech because you want to come and enter my space and collect all my customers. Now we are all preaching collaboration, but that collaboration has it has limits. But the regulator is also helping to more or less sanitize that space. So the regulator has taken it upon itself to regulate both commercial banks, traditional banks, and these fintechs, so that there is that balance in there. And a lot of initiatives are happening. One would be regulatory sandboxes, where the central bank sets up more like a controlled environment to allow all these fintech startups and banks to test some of these products before full-scale rollouts. And there have been instances where in technology they'll say, okay, you have to ship out the product before you iterate or before you make changes along board, or what you call flying a plane as you're building it. Now, for you to be able to do that, you want to be able to, balance the risk and then also encourage responsible innovation. Let me call it that way. And by responsible innovation, you want to be able to have that control over, what is being produced or what is being designed for, full-scale rollout. Now, the other thing that I think is very, very prominent in other markets is open banking, where, banks are allowing other fintechs, to say, okay, I have access to data on my customers. You can plug into that information and then build products that we can both, benefit from. And now, and how do, banks and, fintechs do that? Through what we call APIs or application programming interfaces. So a bank wants to have maybe a lending product. Now a fintech has the technology. Now they need to access the bank's customer information to be able to create products to meet a specific segment. So you want to do, say, a buy now pay later product for maybe people who order food on Glovo and Bolt and all these food delivery platforms. Now the bank can say, okay, you can rely on my data, build some of these products. I'll provide the funding, you provide the technology, and then it's a win-win for all of us. And there are several instances in the market. So you think of utility payments. So this is electricity. There's a fintech called Haptel partnering with the electricity company of Ghana. So you can buy your power via a mobile app. Some of the things that banks are doing, and then of course, the Ghana Interbank Payments and Settlement System. In Nigeria, the equivalent is NIPS, where they are partnering with banks to have this interoperability. So mobile money providers and all of that. You're looking at PPPs or public-private partnerships for digital finance. And one of the things that a lot of the central bank is trying to do is to pilot what you call the CBDC or central bank digital currency. In our case, is the ECD, where they're allowing fintechs to say, okay, build the technology for this, so that if I want to transfer money overseas, I can just transfer from my ECD wallet to somebody's eNaira wallet. So there should be that collaboration and seamless movement of money across board. Data protection is also a very critical thing, and we have Data Protection Commission and the central bank who set guidelines around data protection, cyber security, just to safeguard customer information in this digital transformation or digital transactions. Now we've been speaking in the last 2 or 3 years. There've been the advent of cross-border payments across stable coins, or what our sister company Zone does, building blockchain technology for transaction settlements and cross-border. So a lot of those things are beginning to happen in the market. And of course, you want to go to also look at the financial literacy of your people. How do you educate the general public? Like I mentioned, we have a very young population, but a lot of them are in the informal sector. So most the literacy rates and all of those things will come into play. They hear a lot of these things, going around. Even for those that we call the middle class, who are pretty educated, some, there's still that gap in knowledge on what financial literacy and inclusion is. Where, banks now on their mobile apps are content marketing or product marketing, where they are putting out content on the things they do. How do you save? How do you what's your understanding of cyber security information on data privacy day? How then do we educate the public on not giving out their PIN because somebody said, oh, you know what, give me your PIN, let me check if your account is still active, and then they give out that information, and then they are harmed in the future. So that literacy program, the inclusion programs are also part of the things that regulation is trying to help us. So just in a nutshell, so regulatory sandboxes are one, API banking, open banking, industry forums, digital payments, innovations are all very important in creating that secure, inclusive, and innovative ecosystem. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Gosh, David, you're just reeling out this stuff. I'm like, God, this is serious. Awesome. It's good to know that there's some intentional groundwork being done across board to ensure that Ghana's financial space shines through, and we can up the numbers in terms of digital banking. So this has been an awesome conversation. We all know the part of creating products for your target audience, or creating products for not just yourself because you spotted the problem, but being able to understand the end users of that product. And there is no way you are coming with disruptive technology and the likes, and there will not be some sort of resistance, even if you have to teach people into adoption. How do you ensure, and it would be good for you to maybe mention some of these cultural nuances. How do you ensure that cultural nuances are respected while also introducing disruptive technologies into Ghana's financial sector?
So of course, for any business going into any market anywhere, I think a lot of the time we are all thinking about, what are the pain points, what can we solve in the market. You are in as much as you've created a product and you are saying, okay, it's not a one size fits all, you are building for different markets. You need to understand the cultural nuances, the cultural identity of the market you are going into, so that you can have a good balance of innovation and then that cultural sensitivity. And of course, you want to use that to ensure that there is adoption and there is trust of your platform. Now, some of the things that you may possibly look at will be, if you're financial, of course, you want to understand the financial behavior of the market you are going into. So let me take the Ghana use case, for example. Before mobile money became a thing, everywhere else, we're very, I think even still, people still have that that issue of trust in mobile money, because like, I'm not seeing the physical cash, I'm not counting the money and then smelling the notes. No. So we are still a heavily cash-based economy, though there are some people who are still in there. So you need to understand the local financial behavior and the preference, whether they are a cash-based economy and what the trust is in traditional banking. Now, a lot of Ghanaians, like I'm saying, still prefer to do cash transactions. So digital solutions must offer that seamless cash in, cash out option, and through what agency banking once again. So they still need to have that mix of the digital plus the traditional or the conventional. So banks, the last 4 or 5 years, close to 4 or 5 banks have come onto the agency banking ecosystem. Before then, for close to 10 years, it was just 1 or 2 banks, and out of the 23 banks in Ghana, as at today, only 8 banks have any form of agency banking product. So it still begs the question that even the financial institutions themselves, who say they want to do digital stuff, don't even believe that they still need to branch out or expand their reach through third parties or agents. And of course, I also want to understand how the indigents or the market you are going into, how do they trust traditional banking? Some 5-6 years ago, some banks lost their licenses, so it affected confidence quite a bit. Now you want to know that if you don't have this information, you come into the market, you are preaching agency banking, you are preaching this. The main conventional banking itself, there's no trust in there, so the adoption is even very low. So you want to be able to understand what will boost the confidence of people in traditional banking in the first place. And you also want to leverage the branch assisted digital onboarding and agency banking sort of things. Now we have a lot of informal things happening because of the segmentation of our markets here. Now, savings culture is also a very big thing here in Ghana, where we call it SUSU, SUSU in Ghana, where I can have a group of 10 friends, and I say, okay, every month each person, let me use USD for wide understanding. So okay, this month Tolu, myself, Emeka, we have to contribute $100 each into a pot, and then Tolu is the first person. So Tolu takes it the first month. The next month we do same, and then Tolu. So it helps to build that sort of savings culture amongst us. And now a lot of banks, fintechs are preaching all these digital savings products, offering you very attractive interest rates. So you as a bank, you need to understand that, okay, for me to be able to improve that savings culture, and of course these are deposits to the bank, I need to have a platform or a mobile app or some form of digitization of some of these things around savings, teaching people about financial literacy, and there are some banks who do very targeted broadcast. So in January, they know that some banks are paid what they call the upfront. So your rent allowance is paid for the entire year. Some banks are paid their COLA at the start of the year. So these are monies that people, even the staff in banks and other institutions, are getting very huge funds at the start of the year. How then do they encourage that savings culture amongst us? So that is also another thing. And of course, one thing, like I mentioned, there are 12 tribes in Ghana, and we all speak different languages. So, like I mentioned, because the informal sector economy is bigger than the middle class or the elite, if I may put it that way, you also need to have this messaging or support services incorporated in multiple languages. So you can have a call center or a chatbot that maybe that has a voice messaging sort of thing. You can interact with the customer in the language that they are comfortable in, whether it's Akan, whether it's Gan, whether it's Ewe, whether it's Hausa, so that you can have them in that space, so that you want to still put a human face to the sort of things you do. You understand? And then also building trust through community engagements, where you have all these word of mouth recommendations, working with community leaders in terms of financial literacy, market groups, religious groups, and local influencers. Now a lot of banks and institutions are working with, social media influencers across, the TikToks and the Instagrams and the whatnot, to build that credibility amongst, the community. Yeah.
Awesome. It's more about understanding the real pain points, and as well as the traditions of the people you are creating for, and then tailor whatever it is that you are creating to meet that pain point the way they want it to be met, in that sense. So yes, I totally love that. We also have something similar here, saving culture in Nigeria. We call it mostly like the Yoruba content. We call it ajo. It's more like people pulling money together to be able to do something tangible, and then it goes round and everybody pitches in. So I totally get that. Wow. This has been a solid conversation, David. I really learned a lot, and I totally believe that our listeners too learned a lot from today's episode of the podcast. We look forward to bringing you to more episodes of the podcast.
Absolutely. I look forward to that.
Awesome. And don't worry, when I come to Ghana, I'll get to try all your delicacies and all these things.
Please do. And of course, the jollof war is still ongoing.
Exactly. I was going to ask you, truthfully, David.
Yes.
Be sincere. Have you tasted Nigerian jollof?
I have. I have tasted Ghanaian.
I've tasted Nigerian.
To be very honest, this is without any bias whatsoever. Ghanaian jollof, Ghanaians are, we're a spice nation. We like our ginger and so. Having that, but in Nigeria, it's really just a lot of pepper. That is all I tasted.
What's the difference? Okay,
it was a bit soggy as well. You want to have
Maybe that's your one-time experience. I beg to differ, but don't worry. When I come over to Ghana, we're going to do a live testing Ghanaian jollof.
Absolutely.
Nigerian jollof. Really good one. So that we can the standard is the same.
I know just the place. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David, for this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening in. We trust that you picked up one or two things on the Ghanaian financial sector. And till we come your way again next time, keep being amazing and keep being courageous. Bye, everyone.
Bye.